you all my bills in the future and have you look at them before I turn them into the county clerk. So we had an issue with the Port Authority bill, and I turned it in October, and it didn't end up getting paid until December. And it's because it was supposed to be approved by you guys, and you didn't know it, you never saw it.
If you would just wait till right after the first year, you can come in and talk with the new county commission about it.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. So, because I know Carolyn, she was sweating bullets over getting that check for the state. So, what do you want, man?
Have you had much feedback about the report from Boone Select, the economic development report? Have you?
From the chamber committee, yes. In fact, I made you copies of those options, didn't I? Right. And I think putting those in, Dan, I gave you those, didn't I? Okay. I think, you know, starting out small with some of the options that I came up with it's directly from that strategy. And I think putting those in place will help meet some of the goals that we discussed and that are in the strategy, starting there and then building from that in the future. But yeah, everyone seemed to think, the only thing that I heard a negative on from everybody that looked at it, Joe Creason, he made this comment and some others did too, is on the graphs. If you look at the graphs, they start, instead of, you know how you generally a graph will start from the left and work its way to the right, they start from the right and work their way to the left. And that's the only negative comment that I've had from the strategy. Other than that, the only other thing, I don't know if I talked about this with Dan or what, but I know one of the other things I saw was they put in there that they didn't want mass feeding operations, which one of the projects I'm working with right now, that would kill that project if we said in the future we're not going to work with these anymore. I kind of understand what they're saying. They're saying like hog farms, and it needs to be a little more specific on exactly, but that could hurt. And then the other thing is they put in there absolutely no landfills. And I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we say absolutely no landfills. Fred Weber up here on 61 is a great location for one. Now I know there's houses around there.
Well, Kelly, what's even better than that is Fred Weber over at Foley or Magruder's back here. It's back
There's
here.
a lot of money to be made
tippings
from
big
landfill for the county and for the school districts. And the way they're regulated, people don't really understand, and you have to, through education, inform people, but they are so heavily regulated these days. I mean, they have to put in sensors and all kinds of things in the ground. They can't leach anything out, and they have to cover it up with earth every night. So
I would say Weber's, because Weber's is the corridor into the county.
Right.
At Auburn.
At Auburn.
Yeah.
And I was thinking Auburn because that's a commercial, you know, even though we don't have planning zoning, that would probably be zoned as a commercial district anyway, if we did have planning zoning. So you're not going to have a whole lot of residential growth around that area. So it would just make sense. I think we're killing ourselves. It may not be 10, 15, 20 years in the future that we get something like that, but we don't want to kill that if there's a possibility, because it is a good money-making operation for the county. I know it's not a positive thing, but I would, from an economic development standpoint, it's jobs and it's money that generated for the local economy. So
Kelly, I was part of the conversation at those roundtables when it came to the landfill, and I think they're painting with a pretty broad brush the way they put it in there now. But I think the conversation more revolved around you had to be real selective with the location of it. For instance, you know where I live out on Highway U, and there are quarries real close by there, but there's also a lot of houses.
Yeah, and that wouldn't work.
That would be a bad idea. I think that's what the actual conversation was in those roundtables. It
was probably like the feeding operations, same way.
Right.
It needs to be narrowed down and be a little more specific. Yeah. Don't you think? I mean, we don't want to say feeding operations in general, because that kills everything. What about a nice-sized cattle farm that wants to come in and an operation that wants to generate some jobs and everything? I mean,
the cattle regulations will take care of most of that stuff. Probably.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So that was the only things I saw. Did you guys get a chance to look at the entire strategy? I thought Steve and them did a good job in putting our ideas down on paper, and it was nice to get all of the participants together and get a great consensus across the county. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to add to the packet. This came up at our committee meeting a couple weeks ago. a list of all the participants and where they were from. Then that way, when I go to Ellsbury, I can show them there were folks in the Ellsbury area that were a part of this strategy, that it wasn't just Troy. And the Troy Chamber was very sensitive to that. They don't want the rest of the county to feel as though this is just something for Troy. This is Lincoln County. This is for the entire county.
Everybody benefits.
Everyone benefits from it. So, other than that, I guess the only other thing that I have is the meeting that we had last Tuesday with the banks, and kind of want to give you an update on that, and the company that I'm working with. That went very well, and the banks are in a position now that they're willing to, and the two banks that I'm speaking of is People's and Bank of Old Monroe, are favorable if another larger bank gets in the mix and basically takes the lead on it. They would be willing to contribute towards it and help in the financing. So Michael's supposed to get back to me either today or tomorrow. He had a meeting in Virginia with a large bank to kind of take the lead, and he's supposed to get back to me and let me know how that went. That was last, I think, Thursday they had that meeting. So I'll let you know when I hear something more of that. So it's still moving forward. It was a good meeting. You guys weren't there. It was a really good meeting. Mike Miller was there, Casey, and Terry Bowling. Terry's taking Rex, yes, taking Rex's place, and they were very happy and pleased with the presentation and just the project in general. So
good. That was a good move, getting them all together.
Yeah, I was not upset. I guess that's not the right word, but I guess disappointed that CSB decided they didn't want to come over, and then CVB, is that right? Community, they decided they weren't interested.
You extended the invitation to them, though? And they didn't come.
Yes. Yeah.
It is
And
disappointing.
so,
Yep.
that's all we can do. I've always wanted a project where we could get our local banks involved like that, so
Make them all part of it. It's good.
that's what it's about. So that's all I have. You guys have anything else?
I have something, can you turn that off a second, please?
No, I think it's good.